Weekend Life with Mike Puru, Magic Talk.
Harold Hillman joins us again. Great to have you on the show, Harold.
Good to be back, Mike.
I love this subject, how to build self-confidence. I was quite a shy young man growing up, but it was interesting how I guess little things in my life helped build self-confidence to the point now that I can be a radio and TV person.
This is right.
Let's find out how to build it today, shall we? Because I think it's very important, isn't it?
It is very important. Self-confident people, they do better, not only professionally, but personally, socially. They are, self-confident people are happier, they are healthier, they live longer lives. Largely because there's this sort of undercurrent of optimism in terms of their perspective. And over the age of 45, whether you are an optimist or a pessimist has big impact on the overall quality of your life. And so self-confident people, their energy is usually upward, outward. It's not insular, but it pushes out in a way that connects with other people. They are very, very good socially.
Especially given the environment we're in at the moment where mental health issues, everyone's very aware of them. So to build self-confidence helps build self-esteem, which is always very helpful. But there's a fine line, isn't there, between being self-confident and arrogant?
There is. There most certainly is. And so that's where self-awareness comes in.
Right.
Because self-confidence, when it gets promoted with too much of a swagger, and particularly if people perceive that this is in your own interest as opposed to helping the team be successful, it falls over into that category that we usually call cocky or arrogant.
Yeah.
And, again, as we talked about, any strength, if played to excess, can all of a sudden become a liability. So self-awareness helps a confident person not take it over the line.
Right, I'm just texting with somebody that I know. They should be listening to this conversation. How do we define self-confidence?
I usually say, think of someone in your life. It could be a 90-year-old, very introverted grandparent who, when you're with them, there's really that sense of connection. It's something about them. Or for that matter, a 6-year-old, you. As you talked about in your early years, it does start early.
Right.
In that sense of this is a person who, when posed with a problem, they really do project an energy that is about can do.
Yeah.
It inspires a team. If you have a confident leader, it instills confidence in a team, particularly if they're trying to push through obstacles and things like that. Self-confident people, they push through ambiguity and uncertainty quicker. They just latch on to reality and just push through it. They inspire confidence in others. As I mentioned, they are optimistic. They think big, and they're more authentic. They're just, so they're so confident in what they bring and who they are that you feel like you're dealing with the real person. It does go to the heart of connection.
So, say you've got two different kids and one's self-confident and one's not. How then can you work out what makes somebody self-confident? I know that's a big question.
Well, and a big part of it is in terms of confidence. Clearly, it's in that space of sort of how we talk to ourselves.
Right. Okay.
And what goes on. I often suggest that you have two voices that play out in your head every day as you are pushing through the day. One of them would be the inner coach, and the other voice would be the inner critic.
Right.
And for a person who is self-confident, their self-talk, if you could tap into their head and hear what they're saying to themselves, they back themselves, they believe in themselves, they are confident enough not to feel like they have to be right.
Right.
So there's sometimes confidence is being able to sit down with people who see things differently and actually hear them, as opposed to feeling like you've got to be right. So self-confident people who really are self-aware land with maximum impact. That all starts, it does start relatively early.
Yeah.
And so I just say to parents, be mindful of how you, as the external coach in your kid's life, you want to stretch them, you want them to grow, you're trying to build their capability, but build their confidence as well. Tell them where they make a difference. Tell them where they're really good. Praise them for things that are, particularly exceptional things where it just makes them feel good and want to bring it with a lot more conviction.
Okay, let's go to the other side of the coin. There are deeper psychological issues for, say, someone who has low self-confidence, isn't there?
It is. It is. So, as you are aware, self-confidence and self-esteem are correlated. So, a person with high self-confidence typically has high self-esteem.
Yeah.
And a person with low self-confidence is going to have low self-esteem. And so it gets into a vicious loop, as you can see. So what tracks with that then are people who have impoverished relationships, depression, often if it's not organically driven. Sometimes people who have low self-esteem, people are depressed because they have low self-esteem. So it perpetuates itself. And you tend to see more chronic sort of pervasive mental disorders sometimes with people who have low self-esteem. So it is important to, really just think about the importance, particularly with kids, particularly in the workplace.
Yeah, true.
In terms of how people are connected.
And it's never too late to build self-esteem and confidence. So how can you do that? What are some of the things we could do right now to get our self-confidence at a level that is going to help with that, inner coach and those questions that you ask?
Well, part of it is self-awareness, and that is, spend 2 or 3 days listening to the voice in your head. Is the inner coach louder than the inner critic?
Right.
For a lot of people, the inner critic is much louder. Like, you idiot, how could you do? Sometimes I ask people, would you be arrested for the things that the inner critic says to you, inside your own head? If you said that to another person, would you be arrested? There are people who are really hard on themselves.
Yes.
And it breaks connection. If you don't back yourself, it's hard for you to convince other people to, if you don't believe in what you're bringing, why should other people? In that respect.
No, it makes sense.
You want to, so be mindful of the inner voice. Also focus on being a bit more optimistic. Just thinking about what's possible as opposed to why we can't do this.
Right.
And so if you're inclined to talk yourself out of doing something, even before you've worked up, just think in terms of what's possible. It makes a big difference. Make sure you have realistic and attainable goals. Sometimes, you're not going to go from A to Z. It's going to take several chapters.
That's right.
And so, if a kid can't sing, they're
not going to be recording an album within a week.
Probably not going to be recording an album. You might want to steer them in a direction where they can play to their strengths.
That's right. No, this is good. So that's how you can build your self-confidence. But what if you wanted to help somebody build self-confidence? Is there anything we can do to help that?
Yeah, be more of a coach. When particularly in the workplace, if you've got somebody who's on a learning curve, very often they'll get real nervous. The inner critic will, start talking to them really loudly.
What am I doing here? Out of my league.
Out of my league. So be an external coach to that person. Okay. I tell managers this all the time. Wear a coaching hat and be like a coach is, whether it be on the sports field or, in an orchestra or whatever the activity. A coach is a person who's trying to infuse positivity and the sense of we can do this. And so be that person be that coach to the person.
Even if they're making mistakes.
Even if they're making mistakes. And it helps to focus on the positive, because then when you have to focus on something that went wrong, on the negative, it doesn't make you this person that only shows up to give negative feedback.
Right.
Negative feedback. Sometimes you can see it when a person is walking, a manager is walking towards a person and they begin to sort of shrivel and draw inward because they know that it's going to be here's another mistake.
And that builds low self-esteem, which then has some follow-on effects. So think about how you do that. This is good. I like this.
And just positive reinforcement makes a big difference. There's a need to be needed in human beings. I firmly believe that. And, the way that we can show people that they're needed is to just every now and then thank them for, making a difference.
Harold Hillman, thank you so much. You have a fantastic afternoon building confidence. I'm just waiting for Harold to leave. Thank you, Harold. Somebody sent in a text going, who's the cosmic dude? He's so confident. I'm pleased you didn't see that in the middle of his spiel. He is confident. He's very clever too.